Okay, let's unpack this. We're all swimming in information, right? Maybe drowning sometimes. But what if a major restriction, like blocking communication apps, actually sparked something huge, like a global financial tech player? Today, we're diving deep into Botim. It started, well, pretty simply voice and video calls, but it morphed into this massive digital hub, a real integrated ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, really, of adapting to the market. Millions know Bottom just as, that reliable app for calls. HD quality works pretty well. But the real twist, the interesting part is bottom money. So our mission here is to look at how these restrictions on communication, particularly in places like the UAE, basically created the perfect storm for this app, how it grew from just secure chats into this all-in-one platform handling complex financial stuff, too.
It's quite a clever move strategically. And, for you listening, it's important to grasp why this happened. It kind of flips the usual narrative. The lack of something basic became the seed for this whole financial service platform, right? So to really get Bottom now, you have to go back to the beginning. Voice over IP, VoIP. Bottom got really popular mainly because it offered reliable VoIP calls. When, the big names like WhatsApp calling, Skype were often restricted, sometimes totally blocked in key areas. This wasn't just filling a small gap. It was solving a really fundamental, like high-stakes issue for literally millions of people.
That's such a critical point. Its success wasn't just that it offered calling. It offered it where people desperately needed it to connect, often internationally with family friends. That necessity just handed them a massive user base almost overnight. But just solving the restriction, technically speaking, wasn't straightforward. They really had to nail the core functions right from the get-go.
Okay, so what were those, like, essential features, the non-negotiables for that early win?
Well, first, HD quality. It had to be good. You can't build trust if calls are choppy or the video freezes constantly. So secure, encrypted calls, one-on-one, groups, voice, video, all that. Second, and this was probably most critical for those markets, was reliability, especially on low bandwidth connections. The tech itself had to be built to handle flaky networks. That technical resilience, that's what really set them apart from competitors who just couldn't cope in those restricted environments.
And it wasn't only the calling features, was it? The messaging side had to be solid, too.
Oh, absolutely. It needed to cover all the bases for daily communication. So you've got encrypted messaging, sharing texts, photos, videos, documents, the usual stuff, but also think scale. The sources mention huge group chats up to 500 people. That shows they weren't just thinking about calls. They wanted Bottom to be the main daily communication tool, which, sets the stage perfectly for what came next. They positioned themselves as the secure, reliable channel, especially for people separated geographically.
Okay, so Bottom nails the communication piece, becomes essential, trusted, especially for this very global user base, people living abroad, working internationally. Once they had that locked down, they looked around and saw, well, it's an obvious next step. And here's where it gets really interesting. They didn't just add like fun filters or something small. Nope. They jumped straight into global finance, called it Bottom money.
Yeah, it wasn't just a pivot. It was, well, a really smart synthesis of a clear market need. Think about it. The people relying on Bottom for calls. Many are expats, migrant workers, people with family across borders. And this group is often, let's say, underserved by traditional banking, especially for things like sending money home, remittances. So Bottom basically had this pre-qualified, high-value fintech audience sitting right there inside their communication app, ready-made.
I have to admit, reading the sources, I was a bit surprised. Jumping from, secure video calls straight to multi-currency wallets and international transfers, that's a massive leap. Requires immense user trust. How'd they pull that off?
They basically leveraged the necessity that already existed. People had to use Bottom for calls because of the restrictions, and because Bottom solved that problem reliably, it built instant loyalty. A kind of trust currency, you could say, something traditional banks often find harder to earn quickly in those markets.
Okay, so let's make it practical. For a user, what's the #1 financial thing Bottom does? And why couldn't a regular bank do it as easily?
The absolute killer app feature is the international and local money transfer, especially remittances. Imagine, like, a worker needing to send money back home. Fast, secure, low fees. Traditional banks. Often slow, expensive, lots of paperwork. With Bottom, it could be near instant. To a bank account, or even quicker, to another Bottom wallet. That ease, that speed, right there next to your chat history, it completely changes the game for the user.
Ah, okay, that clicks. The app becomes the central hub for, well, pretty much their whole digital life abroad.
Precisely. And they built out from there. It wasn't just transfers. To become this super app, they added things like Multi-currency prepaid cards. You can top up an e-wallet right in the app, pay bills, recharge your mobile phone, all handled inside Bottom. It's about creating that integrated ecosystem.
And we shouldn't forget those other touches, like the AI companion they added.
Yeah, that's a neat, smart utility. The AI is meant to help manage things across both communication and finance, helping with calls, messages, but also, importantly, guiding users through maybe complex things like money transfers. They're really aiming to make international finance feel as simple as, sending a quick text. It's all part of wrapping the user's entire digital world into their app.
Right, so Bottom captures this essential market, solves a big problem, then layers on these valuable financial services. That kind of expansion needs serious tech capability, right? And navigating regulations, too. Who's actually behind all this?
So the developer is listed as Algento Cloud Computing Limited. And looking at their structure gives you a clue about the scope. Algento has related companies, subsidiaries in places like Dubai, Hong Kong.
Which straight away suggests a global footprint, a global mindset.
Exactly. And their focus areas are pretty broad: communication tech, sure, but also cloud computing, digital media, even gaming. So having that diverse tech background means the jump from, say, encrypted chat to managing multi-currency finance is maybe less of a sudden shock and more of a, well, strategic integration. They likely had the chops to handle complex tech already.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But given that the core thing, the VoIP workaround, the basic communication is free for most users, how do they make money? It feels like they need two different engines running, one for the free calls, one for the paid financial stuff.
That's a really key question. And yeah, they use a very clever hybrid model. The base layer, the free version, is supported by ads. You'll see them in the interface, maybe during calls sometimes. That's what keeps the lights on for the free communication service, making sure they keep that huge user base they built because of the VoIP restrictions.
The real cash comes from convenience and those higher value transactions, I imagine. Which brings us to the premium stuff.
Correct. Monetization really leans heavily on in-app purchases and subscriptions. The main one is the Bottom VIP subscription.
Yeah.
Monthly or yearly, auto-renews. And the big draw, the main benefit for VIP, no ads. If you're using the app constantly, paying to get rid of ads is a pretty compelling offer.
And VIP presumably unlocks other premium features too.
Yes, exactly. Plus, they also monetize calls outside the Bottom network. So if you need to call a landline or a mobile phone that doesn't have the app, they offer that as a paid service, low-cost international calling. You buy credit inside the app. It's very targeted. It hits users whose needs go just beyond chatting with other Bottom users. So it's a really nicely layered approach. Give away the necessity with ads to build the audience, then sell the convenience and the vital financial tools. Hashtag outro.
So what does this all boil down to for you listening? I think the key takeaway here is about the power of constraints, how limitations can actually drive innovation. Bottom isn't just, a calling app that randomly added banking features. It's this whole ecosystem that grew directly because of the communication blockade. It captured a very specific global audience that was also desperate for better ways to handle cross-border money. Its success really shows how regional restrictions can sometimes, unexpectedly, accelerate digital development, pushing companies to be these incredibly powerful, multifunction platforms much faster than they might have otherwise.
Yeah, and if we pull back to the bigger picture, Bottom's story really highlights something interesting. That huge unmet demand for a restricted, essential service in this case, VoIP can be a much stronger driver for innovation across different sectors, like fintech, than just ordinary market competition. They didn't just compete with banks on finance, they sort of sidestepped them by owning the essential communication channel first. Which leaves us with a provocative thought, maybe. If a government blocking VoIP can inadvertently create the conditions for a global fintech player handling multi-currency transfers, what other currently restricted digital services think about data access, specific types of content might become the next unlikely catalyst for launching similar huge integrated digital platforms. What gets bundled next when communication and finance merge like this?